Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really embarking on quite an extraordinary journey. We're going to peel back the layers of a life that, well, captivated the entire world.
Mhm.
Our deep dive into the source material, it gives us this incredibly intimate look, doesn't it? Revealing a really compelling story of grace, courage, and just profound humanity.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking, of course, about Lady Diana Spencer. And our mission here really is to move beyond just the headlines.
Right.
We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the insights from her life, and show how this initially shy young woman transformed,
Yeah.
transformed into one of the most beloved figures globally, leaving such an indelible mark despite facing, well, immense pressure, both public and private.
And as we get deeper into this, you'll see these striking contrasts that really defined her whole journey. You've got the dazzling public spectacle, that royal
Oh,
wedding.
fairy tale wedding, yeah.
Exactly. And then the hidden struggles behind the palace walls. It's this story where personal pain, it didn't diminish her. Instead, it seemed to fuel this extraordinary purpose. And that's what ultimately cemented her legacy as the people's princess. So let's begin.
Okay.
Her story really starts with her upbringing, doesn't it? Diana Frances Spencer, born July 1st, 1961, in Norfolk, England. She came into this world of, well, aristocratic privilege. Her father, John Spencer, he was an earl.
Right. Part of the aristocracy, not direct royalty, but certainly within those circles.
Yes, and that lineage placed her kind of firmly within the circles that, supplied royal consorts historically. It offered this unique mix of privilege, but also relative freedom, which is such a stark contrast to the life she'd soon step into.
Absolutely. And what's truly foundational here, I think, is how those early experiences shaped her. She had this deeply sensitive nature. Her mother, Frances, left the family home when Diana was only 6. And that event is widely seen as profoundly shaping her soft heart and deep sensitivity from an early age.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and accounts from her childhood. They describe a girl who loved dancing, loved animals, and just instinctively wanted to help others. She wasn't perhaps the most academically inclined,
Right.
but she possessed this really gentle spirit and a sincere smile. Qualities that, looking back, really defined her public image later on.
So this was the sort of quiet foundation of her life. Then as a teenager, she moves to London, works as a kindergarten assistant.
Mine.
It seems like a pretty ordinary existence for a young woman of her background, actually.
It does, a quiet life
Until everything changed.
until everything changed
Right.
dramatically.
The shift was just so swift, wasn't it? In 1980, she's just 19. She meets Prince Charles, the heir to the throne, and the relationship just explodes. It becomes this global phenomenon almost overnight. By February 81, the engagement's announced.
And bam, she's instantly the most talked about woman on the planet.
Absolutely.
And the wedding itself, July 29th, 1981, St. Paul's Cathedral. I mean, the scale was just unparalleled.
Unbelievable.
Biographers always point this out. Over 750 million people watched the wedding on television.
Yeah.
Just think about that number.
It's staggering.
And her dress, that stunning white gown with a 25-foot train,
Yeah.
it became iconic the moment she stepped out. For the world watching, it was the quintessential fairy tale wedding.
Yet almost right away, the reality behind that huge public spectacle started to look very different from the fairy tale.
Very different.
Diana herself reflected on it later. She admitted she felt lonely, unprepared, and unsure about her new life in the royal family.
Yeah, you can only imagine the pressure.
Right. This massive internal struggle, even as she becomes Princess Diana and the entire world basically falls in love with her image. Now, for Diana, motherhood seemed to become absolutely central. She had Prince William in 82, Prince Harry in 84.
Yes.
And she was clearly just so determined to be a truly loving, present mother.
And this is where she really started, you could say, a quiet revolution within the monarchy itself.
Oh, so?
Well, up until then, royal children were, often seen, but rarely touched in public, mostly raised by nannies, kept at this sort of distance.
Right, very formal.
Very. But Diana famously took her sons to school herself. She hugged them openly, in public. She insisted on taking them on, quote, normal trips.
Like theme parks, McDonald's, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And she said it herself, didn't she? I want my boys to have real experiences. I want them to know how people live. This wasn't just bending the rules, it was a profound statement about her values. It directly challenged centuries of royal tradition.
And you could see how this refreshingly human approach just deeply endeared her to the public.
Oh, absolutely.
She wasn't just a princess by title. She was a human being, a caring mother, a woman leading with her heart. And that connection, that authenticity, it resonated globally. It fundamentally changed what people expected from the monarchy.
It really did.
But behind that dazzling image, the groundbreaking parenting, Diana was struggling profoundly inside the palace walls.
Yes, the marriage was deeply unhappy. We know that now. Largely due to Prince Charles's long-standing feelings for Camilla Parker Bowles.
Right.
And accounts from that time, Diana's own words later, describe her feeling utterly alone, betrayed, and deeply hurt.
It raises such an important point, doesn't it? That tension between the public face and the private reality.
Absolutely. And then came that incredibly candid interview in 1995.
The Panorama interview.
That's the one where she directly addressed the problems in the marriage, saying, famously, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Such a stark quote.
And the sources also reveal her intense personal battles during this time, depression, and eating disorder. This was just an unprecedented level of royal vulnerability being shared.
And what's truly remarkable, I think, is that instead of hiding it, sticking to that old royal motto, never complain, never explain, she made this incredibly courageous decision to speak out.
A decision that, well, it shocked the royal family, no doubt about it, but it inspired millions of ordinary people.
Yes. Her honesty, her willingness to show her pain, it gave strength to others going through similar pain. It made her so relatable and challenged that whole idea of stoicism within the establishment.
Definitely.
So as her marriage was publicly unraveling, Diana seemed to find this new, powerful sense of purpose in humanitarian work.
Yes. She really threw herself into it.
And this compassion, this relentless focus on helping others, that's what quickly earned her that enduring title, the People's Princess.
And her impact, it was tangible, often groundbreaking. You think about her visits to hospitals, courageously hugging children with HIV. This was at a time when no one else would, really challenging the fear and the stigma around the disease.
Such a powerful image.
Or that iconic walk through active minefields in Angola. I mean, an incredibly brave act that brought immediate global attention to the devastating human cost of landmines.
Yeah.
She showed this extraordinary willingness to touch the untouchable, to love the forgotten, to stand with the weak. It was truly leading from the heart, not just following protocol.
And you felt that's why the crowds gathered for her. It wasn't just because she was royalty. It was, as you say, because she was real.
Exactly.
Her whole philosophy, she said it often, I don't go by the rule book. I lead from the heart, not the head. It was just a radical approach for that world, and it resonated so deeply.
It really did.
So by the mid-90s, her official royal role, it had shifted quite dramatically. She and Prince Charles officially divorced in 1996. But even without that formal title, Her Royal Highness, she remained, didn't she? In the public consciousness, she was still the world's princess.
Absolutely. She continued her humanitarian work, prioritized time with her sons.
Right.
She kept a strong focus on supporting landmine victims, continued raising awareness about AIDS, about mental health, really pushing these issues into the mainstream conversation. And then in 1997, she began a relationship with the Dodi Al-Fayed, the Egyptian film producer.
And then came that awful night, August 31st, 1997, in Paris. Accounts revealed they left the Ritz Hotel, pursued relentlessly by paparazzi on motorcycles. Their driver lost control of the car in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. The crash, it instantly killed Dodi and the driver, Henri Paul.
Diana was critically injured. Desperate efforts were made at the hospital, but she died a few hours later.
She was only 36 years old.
Just 36.
Yeah.
And the world's reaction, it was unlike anything seen before or since, arguably. It felt like the world stopped.
It really did.
Millions wept openly, thousands upon thousands of flowers, tributes, notes piled up outside Kensington Palace. You saw news reporters struggling to speak through their own tears.
Yeah, I remember that clearly.
It was this collective global mourning for the woman who made the world feel. A truly unique figure whose ability to connect just transcended her royal status entirely.
And even though her life ended far, far too soon, her light, as people say, it really never faded. Her influence profoundly changed how the world sees royalty. She demonstrated that being royal could mean, perhaps should mean, serving with heart, not just upholding tradition.
And her lasting impacts are undeniable, aren't they? Because she was so candid, talking about mental health became more accepted.
Absolutely. Less stigma.
People living with HIV AIDS were treated with more dignity, partly because of her very public, empathetic touch. And that global fight to ban landmines, it gained huge momentum, leading to international treaties.
So her work had real concrete results.
Absolutely. What emerges from her story is this powerful truth that empathy and love can live inside a palace and have a profound impact far beyond its walls.
And her sons, William and Harry, they've undeniably carried her spirit forward, haven't they?
They really have. They speak often about their mother's kindness, her warmth, her courage. And they've continued her charitable work, focusing on many of the same areas: mental health, children's welfare, veterans.
You can see her influence in their public work.
In many ways, yes. It's a direct continuation of her legacy. Ultimately, Diana's story is so much more than dresses and headlines.
Oh, definitely.
It's about a woman who dared to be real in a world that demanded perfection. And her life really embodied her own words, didn't it? Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward. And one day, someone might do the same for you.
Such a beautiful sentiment. So what does this all mean for us, looking back? Diana, as our sources really confirm, she was not perfect, not by any means. She carried fears, doubts, pain, and pressure throughout her life.
But her enduring power, I think, came precisely from not hiding those vulnerabilities. Her life teaches us that real confidence maybe isn't about being flawless.
Right.
It's about being honest, loving others, and living with purpose. And that, I think, is precisely why we still remember her, not just as a princess, but as a person.
Yeah, a deeply human person. And maybe we can leave our listeners with a thought from Princess Diana herself, a sentiment that resonated so strongly then and, well, it still does today.
Which one?
They say it is better to be feared than loved. I disagree. I'd rather be loved.
That sums her up perfectly, doesn't it? Her life is just this powerful reminder that kindness is strength, and that even a soft voice, when it's authentic, when it's purpose-driven, it can undeniably change the world. She truly showed us that even one heart can change the world.